Thinking about your range of reference and the people you talk about, in passing, I'm reminded of a couple of things. Well, at one point in the book, Jennifer, you talk about being in a essentially a drawing room in London and asking, do I really fit in here? There's some pretty important people in the room. Do I really fit in? And at the other extreme, you've got Marshall Gans working with Cesar Chavez. And I guess the question is, does this scale down from Quincy Jones and Harvard and the luminaries who obviously want to be in a room with each other because there's a lot there in that room when they're together. But does it scale down to like Salvation Army in Tuscaloosa? I mean, can the ordinary fundraiser connect to what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, just to clarify, in that London drawing room, my point was that it can be overwhelming, but when you really realize, again, we're just human being to human being connecting to each other regardless of our title, you can actually pretty fearlessly go into conversation with people. And it absolutely translates down because, again, it's not a question of who we are on paper. It's a question of what can we bring to this equation that is really going to make a difference. And that translates everywhere, I think. And of course, the same power dynamic, is at work, I think, regardless of, who it is, if money's at the center of a relationship. A husband and wife can have massive power dynamics because of money being in the center of a relationship. An employer and employee, certainly, philanthropist, nonprofit executive. And so that's really the question. What's at the center of the relationship? And if you're keeping the work and the relationship itself at the center of it, it translates everywhere to everyone because it's the same exact, equation of two human beings and then more and more human beings coming together to get something profound done.
There's one guy who came to us and said, I re-looked at the way my church works on its clothing drive. And he said, I got 12 people together and we had a real open discussion about how we're going to make this better and more effective. So rather than me trying to run the clothing drive and trying to beg, borrow, and steal from people, he said all of a sudden became a collaboration. We worked together. And he said it was the most effective clothing drive we had, in years. Or whether it's, the individuals, we have another great friend who's working to reduce the number of pets that are killed in animal shelters. And she is working, in Jacksonville, Florida, and they brought it down to almost zero because of the collaboration that they helped put together of people in the local markets. And it's what we do and look at, working, any kind of 14, in Jacksonville, Florida, 12 to 14 and they brought it down, come together for a joint cause, whether it's Boy Scouts, whether it's the church, or whether it's, working in your local town to come up with some common objectives for your public schools. It all works.
By the way, just say that in my workshops, certainly like on, I do, I'll take phone calls with people. I've consulted with so many PTAs and churches and, all of that over the years. And it's the same thing. It's just reframing this whole practice. So, yes, I would just agree with what Jeff just said.
Humanity scales. It's good to know.
and head and heart coming together. I mean, that's what it's all about. Right?
Yes.
I would say, I think people sometimes, in terms of the humanity scales, I love that, but I think people often think of heart as being kind of a soft thing, and we've got issues we have to deal with. We've got, impact we have to make, and we need to make sure the numbers are right. And, the way I certainly see the heart is an instrument of vision, and it's a very different instrument of vision than the head in some ways because it can tolerate more risk and uncertainty, and it can try new things, and it can see that the life is an unfinished opus. So, I'd love it if tomorrow we wake up and all the poverty is eradicated from the planet, but it's not likely because as human beings, there's always duality. And so I think really operating from the place of the heart as an instrument of vision allows you to just continue to get up every day and, continuing the work in a way that doesn't lead you astray or frustrate you or burn you out, which is what happens very often.